You're totally learning from your peers. And being part of the Arrowhead Builders Association or the National Association of Home Builders, so many of the salesmen say it's so weird because when they call on the home builders, they're competing with each other. But when they call on the rental stores, they're working with each other. I guess we've learned, at least the group of us that are members, that we're better businesses if we work together than compete against each other. And we do compete against each other. You know, and my floor stripper is more expensive than my competitors. I always joke that I own a better one, even though it might be the same model, but obviously mine's better because I can get more money out of it. So, that's really the biggest thing that I think we've learned as a group is you're better to work with your competitor than you are to compete hard against them.
Welcome to Peer Talk, a dialogue with business owners just like you. Peer Talk conversations run the gamut of business challenges facing owners today. The host of Peer Talk is Dan Crowley, founder and owner of Peer Executive Groups, which provides a safe space for owners to share their experience, grow their businesses, and learn from their peers.
Hi, this is Dan Crowley. We have a number of great owners in our peer group network, just like you, and our job is to give you a voice here on Peer Talk.
Hello, Health Insurance Works is a proud sponsor of Peer Talk. Health Insurance Works is an agency dedicated to helping small businesses and individuals with their health insurance planning needs. Our consultative approach allows us to be strategically positioned to offer small business owners like yourself alternatives to your existing healthcare and benefit options for your employees. Contact us today at 610-533-2020.
Today's guest on Peer Talk is Jerry Kortesmaki from Duluth, Minnesota. Jerry is the owner of both Superior Rental Center, which is across the border in Wisconsin, as well as London Road Rental Center. Jerry has been very active in both the peer executive groups as well as with the American Rental Association. Today's topic is going to be focused on regional ARA groups, and we'll hear a little bit about when Jerry served as president of the ARA of Minnesota. Welcome, everyone, to another edition of Peer Talk. We have an exciting one for you today with a couple of our members from the Rentalosis Group who are going to help us understand what it means to be part of the ARA, especially in your regional committees. So with that, I would like to first introduce Jerry Kortesmaki from London Road Rental Center. Welcome, Jerry.
Welcome. Thank you.
Jerry, why don't you tell us a little bit about your personal history? How did you come to rental?
I grew up as a mechanic in 1981. I was going to school in Phoenix, Arizona, and took a job at ARC, Arizona Rental Company, and got started way back in 1981. Moved to Duluth, took a job here at London Road, or at that point it was Taylor Rental here on London Road, which is the building I'm currently in. I've worked for United Rentals. I helped close this business down because Taylor Rental was bought out by United Rentals. And when the building became available, I went back in and started my own business. And that was 20 years ago this month. I've been a business owner for 20 years now.
Wow. So, and you know, it's interesting. So you were there at the onset, right? London Road Rentals. So, how did that come about? Tell us a little bit about, you know, what it was like initially. What were your assets? How did you get that started? What were you committed to?
Well, I started out, my wife and I hawked everything we owned, took our kids' college savings and bought rental equipment. We literally started out with about $130,000 worth of rental assets to start out with. My wife was working in the paper industry at the time, had a very good job. So she, for the first couple of years, had all the benefits. So as the money came in, I immediately started buying assets. In 2002, when we started, interest rates were very low. 179 was put into effect then. So I was able to take any bit of cash that we created, any bit of money that came in, and turned it around. The first year, I think my goal was like $90,000 in sales, and I did $170,000.
Wow.
It was pretty exciting and fun time. I did start out wanting to just be in the tool business. I didn't want to start in the party business at all. And before we were even opening, I was recycling Christmas trees for the neighborhood since I had a chipper. And a gentleman got out of his car, gave me a big hug, thanked me for reopening the business, and said he'd be in for his tables and chairs. And I had to run in the building and call and order tables and chairs to make sure they were here for
Oh my
events
goodness.
coming up. So it was a really cool, interesting time. My banker just came into the building here on the 20th anniversary. I've had the same banker the whole time. He says he remembers his first time walking in, seeing the fact that the building was empty. We literally had the scaffold and everything inside spread out on the floor to make it look full. And, now you come in and it is full to the rafters. We constantly figure out where to put the next item that's coming in is always a challenge. So,
yeah, crazy. So you're in your specific area. So let's talk about your properties first. So you did have 2 locations, right? You're down to 1, or you still have 2?
I still have 2. Hopefully
Okay.
by the time this thing airs, I will have 1. I'm in Duluth, Minnesota. We're about 90,000 people approximately. I'm on a quarter of a city block. We're very, very tight. Of the Rentalosis group that I'm in, I have physically the smallest store. So, as far as room. So.
And just to clarify, rentalosis is a sickness that you have. You are addicted to rental, and hence the name.
Well, one of my employees that worked for me for years that I worked with back in the 80s on up, me and him always joked about the fact because he started here in college at Taylor Rental, sweeping floors, and he caught the rental bug. And, I started in 81 in Arizona as a mechanic and caught the rental bug. So him and I kind of coined this term rentalosis. So when the group came to be, we called the group rentalosis. It's an illness you can't get rid of once you're bitten.
Excellent. Well, origin stories are important because otherwise you get a black eye from the industry. We have a group called Rat Bag, which is Rental Advisory Team Business Analysis Group. But rat bag is a little bit off-putting. In fact, they even have a logo of a rat on their hat. They have hats that they obviously wear and all that. So you're a very interesting industry, I must say that. So let's talk about the industry. So when did you join how did you find out about the ARA?
Well, being that I had worked for the Taylor Rental here and stayed friends with the guy that owned it even after I quit and moved on in my career, he was a member of the American Rental Association, and he told me when he was helping me when I start this with a lot of information on my inventory and on numbers, and he helped a lot. And he said, you need to join the ARA because it's an important spot to go for the buying show. And he says, for your first 5 years, the only week of your whole life you're going to have off is to go to the rental show. He says, it's very important to get away from the store, at least for a few days a year. So you got to join the ARA just to go to the show for your vacation, because he says, for the next 5 years, that is going to be it. He was totally right. He was completely spot on there.
So that means quite a long time, right? That means you've been part of. So you knowing. Like, I've known you for a while, I would absolutely say you're a dabbler, Jerry, so you like to dabble. So how did, obviously ARA, American Rental Association, has a lot of different things to offer. Tell us about some of the different things you've participated over time.
Well, in the national organization, I've been on ARA and government affairs. I've been involved in the Region 6. We've done some Region 6 trade shows, so to be, and I've been involved in those. After I opened in February, and I think it was in March or April, I was invited to the Minnesota Rental Association to a meeting. And so I had one part-time employee, so I asked him to work. So it was a 3-hour drive away. So I left early, jumped in the car, and went down there and met the people from the Minnesota Rental Association. And that's the part that really, 17 years I was on the board of directors.
Wow.
In the state of Minnesota, you can't be on a nonprofit board for more than 10 years. So after 10 years, they put my wife's name on the list. But I have a plaque on the wall next to me that they gave me when I was on the board for 10 years. And it says, thank you for 11 years of service. And I went, you guys put a misprint on here. It says 11 years. And they said, no, we can't find anybody to replace you. You're still on the board.
Oh, my goodness. So, that's great.
And as part of being that, meeting so many fantastic friends. We're family. We're not friends. We're family. We've had some tragedy in our rental association, and the whole group came together so close. The Minnesota group did. These people, I definitely call them family. I went through the whole board position, including being president and vice president, and it was a great learning experience. Through the ARA sent me to leadership training 2 or 3 times as part of that.
Wow.
So, I've gotten a lot out of my American Rental Association and my Minnesota Rental Association, or ARA of Minnesota, as they like us to call it. But
so if you're participating at a state level, you're meeting your competitors and also your peers in other towns. But certainly it would seem to me, and obviously I'm being facetious here because I'm, the owner of peer executive groups, but you're learning from your peers, right? So it's going to help you accelerate a bit just by being part of the ARA community.
You're totally learning from your peers. And being part of the Arrowhead Builders Association, or the National Association of Home Builders, so many of the salesmen say it's so weird because when they call on the home builders, they're competing with each other. But when they call on the rental stores, they're working with each other. And I guess we've learned, at least the group of us that are members, that we're better businesses if we work together than compete against each other. And we do compete against each other. And my floor stripper is more expensive than my competitors. I always joke that I own a better one, even though it might be the same model, but obviously mine's better because I can get more money out of it. So, that's really the biggest thing that I think we've learned as a group is you're better to work with your competitor than you are to compete hard against them. I mean, there's nothing wrong with competing on the customer service side, but on the other hand, there's enough market for everybody in it. So it's best to make a good market.
And you're in an industry where there's environmental concerns, and manufacturers are going to be transferring information to you as quickly as they can as they make changes to their equipment that comes out into the marketplace. Obviously, there's all sorts of service-related issues in terms of understanding how to repair some of these pieces. There's training issues. So it does seem like it's almost foolish not to be very active with the ARA, right? Just from communication and getting a leg up on your competition from that perspective.
And one of my good friends that's in the Wisconsin side of things, in the area of Wisconsin, Peter McVeigh, he always taught me that R&D is very important. Rip off and duplicate. Why reinvent the wheel? Just learn from your peers, rip off what they do, take their best ideas. It makes our life easier, makes their life easier. We all bump our heads. When your neighbor bumps his head, he taught you where that low spot was. Don't hit it again.
Yeah.
So
now I think you and I met at a ARA of Minnesota event. I don't remember quite how I got there. It might have been Chad Wagner.
Okay.
What's that? Was it you?
I invited you.
Okay. Okay, we'll cut that from the podcast. We don't need to repeat that. But I knew I got there somehow. But I do appreciate that, by the way. And as you know, we've expanded peer groups with quite a number of Minnesota contingent, 2 recent joins that we just spoke about before the podcast. I was essentially remembering attending, coming up, seeing how the sponsors and vendors participate, seeing how the members get a benefit out of that. Tell us a little bit about like the ARA of Minnesota. Do they get together a couple times a year, or how's that look?
Traditionally, we have about 5 meetings a year. 5 to 6 meetings a year. We try to meet once in the summertime. Also, we do an event in the summertime just so that we can get back together with each other because we miss each other. Mm-hmm. It's one of those things that being on the board, I drove 3 to 4 hours to every meeting, and it's still funny how people within the Twin Cities area where most of the meetings are at saying they don't have time. Well, I don't have time to miss it because at every one of those meetings, I learned something that makes my business better, helps me run my business better.
Yeah.
So that's you get out of something what you put into it is the other side of what everybody says. And in the American Rental Association and the Minnesota Rental Association, it's the same exact thing. If you don't put anything into it, you're not going to get anything out of it. So,
yeah. Well, and it's interesting to see how strong some states are, and then some states are still in their infancy or they're rebuilding. I had the benefit of participating in New York, Florida, Georgia, presented Ohio, Michigan, and this weekend I just came back yesterday from Oregon, and that was an outstanding weekend. We had a nice group of operators there, and coming up soon, I'll be doing ARA of Illinois for a second time, so I'm looking forward to doing ARA of Illinois. So these states that seem to have it nailed down and they have that type of communication happening, what can we do for the other states who might not be there yet? What are some ideas you might have that might be helpful for them?
I guess the biggest thing is to have good, strong leadership.
Gotcha.
That's one of the things that we were very lucky in with the group of, Chris Ruddy was in there, Jim Way, which is Kim that you just mentioned, yep. Kim's dad. There's so many of the people that were so welcoming and their good leadership. They called me during the week, especially when I started out the business. It was Ron Chihos, who had General Rental in Monticello. He was one of the guys that was real instrumental in helping me when I started out. This guy opened his books to me. When I had a question, dollars, anything, I was able to call him up. Well, the reality was that group is tight enough that they communicate with each other between meetings. And that's the hardest part of all, is to get a group to trust each other and to actually start leaning on each other, which is good, bad. The government might not like that, but we never fixed prices or anything because we understood we were all in different markets.
Sure.
But did we discuss them? You better believe we did. It's just part of what every business guy does when they get together. You might have to cut that out. But
Well, and again, obviously, inside peer groups, we have everybody representing a different geo-territory, so we don't have the immediate concern of discussion. The idea being, and I pretty much have this memorized now, the antitrust regulations came out back in the 1800s, and the idea was not to be able to talk about pricing specifically as it relates to an asset, but also really to the detriment of anyone not present. So that's kind of the critical component. I do know that we see some benchmarking where you're able to gauge what's happening with pricing on equipment and what's happening with performance, utilization data, but in the context of 5 or more individuals in a specific marketplace. So as long as there's enough information that can be gathered, hence that's why you see Rouse Analytics having such a forward progression, market by market, right? And
they do it, and that's so.
Yes, and again,
they charge you to do it.
They're following, they're following the law, right? Letter of the law. So as long as we all follow the letter of the law, it's great. But I will say that, one of the even more important things about what you do with your ARA committees is you're so up on what's happening. Your communication from state to state, from region to region, changes to law, right? Any new initiatives that are being implemented, when you feel that your industry is under fire and you might have to fire back, kind of come up with a game plan. Give me a couple examples. I'm putting you on the spot. Give me a couple examples of how the ARA has made a difference in the lives of a rental owner just by being in the mix and being able to get people together and talk about issues.
Well, one of them that I was heavily involved with, in fact, I was in the New York Times a few years back, was when Section 179 was made permanent. I started out my business February 1st of 2002, right after the September 11th thing, and the economy, everybody was all worried about it crashing and going down. So the government stepped in and made 179 permanent. Well, they used 179, and every year we'd go back and we'd beg to make sure they keep it in there, because I spent more money because I didn't have to pay it in taxes. So through the government affairs and through the NFIB, I worked. I actually testified in front of Congress on it.
Wow.
I wrote letters like crazy, and it was one of those fun things that when it passed, it was so incredible. And the problem with 179 is you get addicted to it. There's no way out of it. It's like crack. They're tax money, okay? You got to keep using it because.
Yep. And by the way, you can't be that addicted to it because it would be bad to continue to use it the way that use it the way what it's intended for. And as you know, we talk about benchmarking in peer groups, and we're really committed to looking at assets from a fair market perspective. So if we have the ability to say, hey, let's create depreciation schedules internally for our management purposes that we can use in QuickBooks. And at the end of the year, we'll hand it off to our accountant and let him deal with the 179, right? So,
and that's a tough thing as a business guy to follow the fact that you got two different depreciation schedules going on. And I run into that because, I just was looking at that, trying to clean things up on what's left here and there.
And that is normal, especially in this day and age, due to 179. So that is typical. Yep. So no issues there. So let's talk about. We have a few minutes left here. Let's talk about the what we're currently facing. So obviously, our event rental operation friends have gone through quite a period the last year or two. You yourself have been majorly affected by was like at one point 40% of your business.
The party business was up to about 40% after COVID. Now it came back to about a third of it.
Okay.
When COVID hit, the government shut down our party business, and
Gotcha.
It was a tough one. We went and laid everybody off and closed the doors down, and then the phone started ringing for hospital tents, and we brought back a couple guys, and now trying to sell that business a couple years later, and they say, well, what happened to 2020? You lost money in 2020. Well, the government closed me down. I still had to pay rent. I still had to pay utilities. I still had to make payments on all the equipment, but I didn't have no income. But we survived through it. We did get the PPP loan. We came out of it a stronger company. We learned a lot about the party business because of that. We actually became a better business because of that.
Well, and I guess where I was going with the question also is, it did seem like, the American Rental Association stepped up and said, hey, we're going to go back to our bureaucracies out there, and we're going to approach them with some, we're going to try to make sure our industry is respected and put into certain categories for relief, because there was certainly relief happening for different industries. So in essence, we were prepared to lobby, right? As an industry, we had the ability to lobby. That would be one of the things. Would you not recognize that? Would you say that would be the case?
That was very much the case. In fact, they had to immediately do it, and we had to get a hold of our Minnesota legislature as soon as we could to make sure. Because when they were shutting things down, we had to make sure that our stores could stay open. We had to clarify the importance of rental, and the American Rental Association helped with that. Being close with the Minnesota Rental Association, as soon as one of us got the for sure word that, yes, it's safe to be open and they can't shut you down, we shared that amongst each other, because the reality of it was there was people that were afraid they were breaking the law by staying open. And we weren't. We're an essential business because we're supplying the contractors. And, if they close us down, how can we put up medical tents?
Yeah.
So, okay. But initially they did close us down, or they told us we had to close down.
So talk to us again. Let's segue over to developing employees, talent acquisition, developing employees. Clearly, there's a care there that comes from the association level. You are one of the first industries to have certification around training on the event side, correct? Yep.
We have one CERP on our crew, one certified event rental professional. Yep.
And again, plenty of training materials, obviously cost money, get put together by the association, gets put out to the group, and then individuals can benefit from that. Obviously can help with some retention of employees, can help develop employees. Now, I heard a rumor that there could be some new developments on the equipment rental side related to certification.
We hope so. There's still a lot of little stuff that comes through on driver training. We just had one through our Minnesota Rental Association where we got a deal on our MUP, our mobile elevated work platform trainings, where we got a deal if we bought a whole bunch of them. Yeah. That's because of the association. So there's constant thing. Again, you got to take advantage of them or they're no good to you. And that's the big problem we run into. And on the state level, I really ran into this. We work hard to get programs and then we can't get the other stores to buy into it and think they need it. One of the big things that the Rental Association is working on right now that I hope works are these association health plans. Health insurance for my business is just incredible. Me and my wife, as you can see, I have white hair. They can't see it but I am the age where I'm starting to look at when I'm going to retire. And our health insurance is stupid expensive. And it's got $7,000 deductibles on it. And so any help we can get on getting in these association health plans to bring our costs down, if they could bring our costs down by a third, that would be an incredible savings to me and my wife.
Yeah.
It'd be huge into my whole company.
Yeah. I mean, it's happening in other industries. So hopefully, fingers crossed, we can see this move that direction. So, the additional certification on the general tool and equipment side, the health benefits, putting something in place there that looks good as well. I realized that they just had their special interest group meetings, right? Was it like last week or something like that? Yeah. And gave everybody a chance to kind of get exposed to some of the new stuff coming out from ARA. I also noticed they have a mentorship program now, which is great. Again, looking at it from a perspective of your specific in marketplace, right? Trying to get things going. Excellent. Well, let's ask this. So we're running out of time. So just last thoughts on the benefit of working with your peers. Maybe you can talk a little bit about ARA and also peer groups.
I was reading somewhere one time and they said there was two things that somebody thought was the greatest thing that's ever come along. And one was EOS and second was the bag group.
Oh, neat.
They thought they wouldn't be successful without these two things. I signed up 10 years ago to become part of peer groups, and it didn't happen for many years. When I finally got invited into the group, I don't know if you guys just didn't want me or okay, but whatever. However,
we were warned about you. No.
Okay, if it would have happened sooner, I believe I'd be retired or at least a more wealthy person and definitely be running my business better. And, again, when I opened my business, one of the things I forgot to put in here. So we go through and do all these benchmarking numbers. When I opened my business, I joined the ARA, and they sent me the cost of doing business. And I took that book, and I set my first budget with that book.
Wow.
I was amazed after a year when I looked back. My budget numbers were all within a couple of percent. It was incredibly accurate.
Wow.
I know the group ARA constantly fights with it, and I know peer groups the same thing on getting enough numbers, getting enough information. People need to turn in those numbers for it to work and to be accurate. But as opening a new business and not having a clue what things are going to cost me to put my budget together, that was an incredibly useful tool. Just a super duper useful tool. So, there's so many things like that help out. And, peer groups, one thing, it's another fun thing. Now I have my whole other group I can do my R&D with. I can rip off and duplicate. We talk all the time about any issue that comes up, from it being personal things to being business. And it's a very, very important tool.
So you guys, and just to finish up here, because I do want to catch this. So you communicate via email, you communicate via, what is it, WhatsApp? Group Me? One of those. You have
I look at it all. Group Me,
yeah. So because I noticed I'm on your Group Me chat, and
I gotta watch what I say. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I don't look at it very often, and then it says, 54 posts. I missed 54, and it's from a week. It's like you guys talk for a week, and there's 54 posts I got to scroll through. So. But I love the fact that you guys have all found so many ways to communicate. Zoom has done wonders. Wasn't your group one of the first that was looking, to get together monthly on Zoom or something like that?
We still do that, and it's very informative. It's helpful. We make it a real not professional, not tight. You're allowed to sit down and have a drink. It's not required to, but you're allowed to. I
like that. So it could be Thursday night cocktail hour. I know a number of groups do have their meetings at the end of the workday, so that's kind of a good timing to kind of catch up with the other owners and see how everybody's doing. But Well, Jerry, we appreciate you being on Peer Talk and looking forward to seeing you more this spring, as well as at our upcoming Meeting of the Minds conference we're hoping to have in the fall. So looking forward to seeing you and Kathy. So thanks for being on Peer Talk.
Thank you.
Hello, Health Insurance Works is a proud sponsor of Peer Talk. Health Insurance Works is an agency dedicated to helping small businesses and individuals with their health insurance planning needs. Our consultative approach allows us to be strategically positioned to offer small business owners like yourself alternatives to your existing healthcare and benefit options for your employees. Contact us today at 610-533-2020.
You've been listening to Peer Talk from Peer Executive Groups, produced and directed by Noah Crowley and hosted by Dan Crowley. Subscribe to this podcast for notifications of future episodes of Peer Talk.